Hi, my name is Glory. I'm a second-year student studying at the Bartlett School of Architecture in London, originally from Hong Kong.
And I'm Yen Shan, a second-year architecture student, and I'm into musicals, oil painting, movies, and embarrassingly into self-help and Richie biscuits.
You're listening to Designing Thoughts with the Archigals, a podcast where we talk about working and creativity, living well, the human condition with relationships, and life experiences. Before we get into the podcast, I would just like to ask for a small favor. It would mean a lot to us if you could leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or leave a comment on our YouTube channel just to let us know how you feel about the podcast and other topics you'd be interested in hearing in.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the podcast. So I'm your host Gloria and this is my co-host Yen Shan, and today we're going to be talking about veganism. So a bit of background information. I'm a vegan and Yen Shan is not one, and I guess this will be a discussion between a vegan and a non-vegan, and I guess the point also to make is that this episode was kind of initiated by Yen Shan because she wanted to do a episode kind of exploring topics related to veganism, and I wanted to give her that opportunity to ask a vegan, whatever questions from a non-vegan perspective. So hopefully this will be interesting for you too.
So I guess you can do it like a Q&A. I can ask some questions about veganism and why. So I guess you should give some context and background on how long and why. Okay, I guess first disclaimer, this is not I'm not a vegan, and also I don't really plan to become one. So I think it's just trying to figure out why Glory is one and why I'm not one.
Mm-hmm.
And to try to see whether we can reconcile the 2 points of view. So yeah, no hate or anything. So I guess first some background. So why are you vegan, and how long have you been vegan?
Yeah, so I've been vegan for 1.5 years, so it's almost 2 years. It doesn't seem that long, but it feels like I've been doing it for forever. So I started becoming vegan when I was in my first year of university halfway, and I think at this point I was already starting to adopt more healthy eating habits, so stuff we discussed in our previous episode of maintaining a healthy lifestyle during school/work. So I started cooking more of my own meals and I wanted to become more healthy, and this was also the time where I saw more plant-based options in the supermarket, so I started experimenting with them more. And then at one point I came across this documentary, or actually not really a documentary, it was a lecture given by this person called Gary Yourofsky, and he talked about why we should become vegan, and it was actually an hour long, and I saw the duration of the video and I was like, there's no way I'm spending 1 hour of my night watching this lecture. And I told myself that I would watch it for 10 minutes, and if it's really boring then I would leave. And once I started watching, I watched the entire thing. And after that, I was like, oh my god, there's no way that I can not be vegan. So I essentially turned vegan overnight. And I didn't think that was possible, because I loved meat so much. I love fried chicken, I love McDonald's, I love all of that stuff. But I really just did become vegan overnight, and it was something that I never thought I'd become. So that's sort of the bit of background information about me becoming a vegan. But it's just very short information, it's not in depth at all. But yeah.
Yeah, I remember when you became vegan. I mean, not the exact day or anything, but
1st of February 2020.
Okay, I didn't know. Oh, that was actually so near,
Yeah.
when COVID hit and stuff. But anyway, yeah, it's it was so sudden for me as well. And I think the way you did it was very cool, as in you didn't tell the whole world, which is I guess the stereotype about vegans is that they everyone to know, the joke is oh, how do you know that someone is vegan? Or because they told you. But anyway, but I feel like you went about it in a super discreet, a discreet way, and then you just explained it in terms of, as in it came to you as in that was what you thought and that was what you wanted to do, so you just did it. That's really cool, I think.
Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot, actually. Yeah, I think a really important point really is not shoving it down people's throat like the joke you just talked about. It's very, very well known on the internet, and I know that joke a lot too. So I think I didn't want to go down that path of just shoving it down people's throat. And I think I was very nervous in the beginning because I knew some people weren't happy with, basically the stereotype of vegans. So I didn't want to fall into that trap and tell people. So I was very discreet or low-key about it. I only talked about it when people were offering me food and I said, sorry, I can't have this. And if they ask more, then I would tell them. But otherwise, I don't just go up to people and be like, "Hi, I'm Gloria and I'm vegan."
Yeah. But I think also people don't. Well, I guess also part of it is like actually food. I think I only realized this after you became vegan. Like it was such a big part of like the things that we shared, and also because you would cook at each other's houses and stuff. So it became like a very big talking point among us and our friends. Also because
Yeah.
it became very obvious, and I think that's also part of the reason why vegans are also portrayed as like being very uh like a lot of people, once someone's vegan everyone knows, also because like everyone has to know, because when you hang out with your friends you mainly eat with them or you cook with them and you share food with them, so that was
Yeah,
like
I think
something
it's
which
a
I
big
realized.
part. Um, I think maybe this was something I didn't envisioning, but it kind of became all of me in a way. And I think that's also why some stereotypical vegans would tell people that they're vegan, because it kind of becomes the whole of them. You know, when you eat food every day, you know, and a lot of people's enjoyment and entertainment kind of comes from food. So it's such a big part of our lives. So you can't really hide it in a way, especially when you hang out with your friends, like you say. You A very major thing that people do when they hang out is, hey, want to catch up over dinner? Let's grab lunch. You know, it's just a really big part of who we are, and you can't really hide it. So yeah, it became a really big thing among us, and we discussed about it a lot, like you say.
Yeah, do you think it affected like your relationships and things with people, or like also made you make new relationships with people who are also interested in the same thing?
Yeah, definitely. I think within friends, I was definitely very nervous to just, I guess, drop the bomb on them and tell them I'm vegan in the very beginning, like even you and our mutual friends. But I think I'm just very like glad that the people that I hang out with are mostly very open-minded about veganism, and they're very happy to, you know, just accept me for making the transition and being very accommodating with where we eat. And I guess also because when we were in London, it was just a very nice place, because London has so many vegan options. Like you could go to a McDonald's and there would be a vegan option, you know? So it's like no matter which restaurant we pick, there's always something for me. But even when we're cooking at someone else's place or at your place or my place, we always cook up something that we both can eat. Like if it's meat, then I won't eat it, and you know, for vegan stuff, I can have them, and you can also try them out too. And the other thing I would say, like forming new friendships. So I don't really have any friends that are full vegan. That sounds kind of sad, but I think I kind of got over that hurdle. Like it's not really a big deal for me, especially online. There's such a large vegan community, and you don't really feel alone, you know, even though I don't have a vegan friend. I never feel like I'm alone because there's such a big community online and everyone shares recipes, and it's just so nice to see that. And I think the fact that friends in my close circle and even like my family, like most of my family is very supportive. Like my mom and my sister are very supportive of me making the transition, and they're also very happy to try vegan restaurants with me outside. So yeah, it's really nice. And I guess another point I would make about veganism is, this is, I guess it's a blessing hidden in a way that nobody really talks about online, is that it sort of lets you see who's open-minded in your life and what type of people you want to attract and stay friends with based on their reaction to things, based on how open-minded they are. So like once you make the transition, you can see whether a person is open-minded or close-minded, and you can kind of see like how they react to certain things and if they want to accept you or other people for who they are. And I think that's a really big part, you know, like being vegan makes you able to see who's a person worthy of hanging out with, you know.
Yeah, I think that's actually quite interesting. And it comes, this I guess is a tangent, but I guess like that test comes with like a lot of things. And at first when you're in school, you think like, oh, I just want everyone to like me. But I think as we like go into uni and stuff, you realize like you don't actually want everyone to like you. You just want like a few people kind of to be
Yeah,
around you.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
tangent, and I definitely agree with it, because you don't like everyone, so how can you expect everyone to like you back, you know?
Yeah, I guess so.
So
But I guess going back to like your family and stuff, do you think, I guess it's also extremely hard. I guess it's fine when it's like friends and it's people you can choose to push away if they don't like the fact that you're vegan. But if it's like family, like do you think you had any problems with that in that
oh, that
aspect?
can be a whole topic in itself. Because I don't know if this is related to Asian culture. I don't think so, actually. I think this is relevant to everyone. but my dad and my grandma had a particularly hard time of accepting me becoming vegan. I think it's mostly along the same lines of thinking I'm not gonna get enough nutrition, or it's just especially for my dad, like he's not able to relive the memories we had when I was younger, when we sort of bond over our love for meat and, you know, eating lots of good food together that wasn't vegan. And we're not able to do the same thing anymore, and it's not going to be the same. I think that was particularly hard for him. So it, like, there were some times where it was very difficult, and we like had disagreements and arguments, I would say. But in the end, like, I'm still grateful that, you know, for my birthday he kind of treated me to a vegan restaurant, and that already meant a lot to me that he was willing to take the first step. So it was nice. But obviously, like, you can't expect him to transition, and I don't blame them, you know. We're just sort of at the point where we're kind of just respecting each other, but not like crossing the line with each other, you know. So that sort of thing.
I guess it's hard to convince parents of anything. So veganism is extra hard. But I guess I think that's pretty interesting, the fact that like your dad thinks that it invalidates like the memories you made before. And this just kind of goes back to the point where it was, do you think that having it made it like becoming vegan became a big part of your personality, and therefore you changed as well, and then who you were as a person changed, and also your interests and things? As in, like, it revolved much more around like nutrition and veganism.
Yeah, I think so. But I think this also has to do with my personality. Like, I don't think the core part of me really changed, because the reason, obviously, actually, I need to talk about the reasons I became vegan. So there's four reasons. We can go into the fourth point later on in the episode, but mainly, again, animal cruelty. It's unnecessary. We don't need animals to suffer. Second, climate change. Basically, eliminating meat is like the single-handed easiest way to reduce greenhouse emissions and save the planet. Trying our best to save the planet. And number 3 is just for health reasons. This is a very gray area because I think everyone's health is different. You can argue in so many different ways that, you know, maybe eating a meat diet is better than you, maybe eating keto is better than you, but we don't have to argue about health because it's so gray area. But I believe that it makes me healthier and happier. So there's that. And then number 4 is basically like COVID and like preventing a second pandemic from hitting. But we can talk about that later. So I don't think my core personality changed because I think in some way everyone sort of agrees with all of these points, but it's sort of whether you're willing to take the step to change it, you know? Because I think as in a normal basis, like core foundation, everybody doesn't believe that animals should suffer. You know, like say if you see someone kicking a dog on the street, you would stop them, right? You'd say, hey, that's animal cruelty, you know? So we all believe in it, but it's whether we're willing to take the first step. So at this point, I'm not really blaming anyone. I'm just sort of saying my opinion. So I think before I transitioned to vegan, I already believed it. And I would say that you probably believe in it too. But it's just that after changing it, my actions changed, but my belief didn't change. It just sort of shifted in a way that I was actually able to act on it, you know, and also being clear that I wasn't sort of wearing these rose-tinted glasses anymore, because when I saw the documentaries and the lectures, sort of like hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, I was mad that nobody ever told me about what actually happens in the animal industry, and it was just kind of sad to see that. And when I realized I could take the step to change it, I wanted to do it, you know. And I think that definitely became a very huge personality for me because it was an action I was taking every single day, so obviously it became a big part of me. But I don't think my core personality changed in any way. Like, we can still talk about other stuff that's not related to veganism. I don't think I really changed that much, but it's just the actions I took. But definitely it also shifted my interest. Like, I became really interested in veganism and, you know, just animal agriculture and how that's being run and, you know, stuff like that. And also nutrition, like the benefits of a vegan diet, because it's like you wouldn't jump onto it without recognizing the, you know, if it's dangerous, if it's beneficial, you know. So definitely read up a lot about that and kind of also and I think the thing with also becoming a vegan is that you have to cook your meals a lot more. And I think for me personally, I really enjoyed cooking my meals already beforehand. So it kind of gave me a newfound passion for cooking as well. So I developed some new interest, and yeah, I'd say.
I think I mean, I think it's true that like I really believe in all the same things as well. But I don't know. It's very interesting. We're having this debate as well. It's like, then what is the point at which, like, why can't I become vegan? As in, like, why is it for like you and not me? Even though, okay, maybe I'm just the worst person. That could be one of the things, and that could be one of the reasons why like non-vegans hate vegans as well. Because it's like, yeah, I feel kind of bad. Like that's one thing. But another thing also is that the impact is definitely very big, but then I guess the argument that a lot of non-vegans use is like, oh, but there's so many other things that people do that are way more
Important.
hurtful for the environment, and like also and also more important as well, that like that we choose to do otherwise. But I think that's also quite a small argument. Another argument would be that, oh, it's like in our culture to like hunt and to eat meat and things. But I was reading a book about this recently, and yeah, I'll link it below, I guess. But it was really interesting. It was about how causing people to eat meat is kind of like, it's kind of like a cultural construct, as in like we've
Yeah.
embedded in children that they should eat meat, and eat meat is good, only meat is good, when
Yeah.
it's not historically true.
Yeah, there's actually a term for that. It's called carnism. Like people who kind of like ingrain it in children's heads that they need to eat meat. It's called carnists. Like they believe in, the need for people to eat meat. So yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, I guess continuing with your point, I guess you're sort of saying like, why is it so hard for me? And I can't do anything, so I might as well like not do anything. Is that what you're saying?
I think that's what a lot of people use, as in, oh,
As
so
an
many
excuse.
humans are suffering as well. And also, like, I use an airplane to fly to the place where I study university, which is quite bad as well. Like, and I also drive a car. There's just so many things. And like, if I just flew less, that would be the same net amount as if I had like given up meat, kind of thing.
Okay, well, first of all, I definitely disagree with that based on a scientific evidence, because I think 75% of greenhouse emission gas comes from animal agriculture because of, well, just methane and other greenhouse gases. It's just a very, very big percentage comes from animal agriculture. And it's like, if we can feed, like, what is it, 75 billion land animals, why can't we feed 7 billion people? That's that's the argument that vegans make. So of course I've read a lot about this, because I kind of can't come prepared with like any discussion that I can have with a non-vegan, and I would sort of be able to like reverse the argument back on them. But I guess that's not the point of the video. I think it's just nice to discuss these points. And with the point that you made of there's so many other problems in the world, why are we thinking about it and I can't really do anything, I think it's the sort of mindset you would have if, say, for any example, say you don't like something in a university, like how the curriculum's being taught, and you can say also like, I'm just a small part, I'm just a student, like why should I raise my voice, I can't make a difference. But it's like, what if you just tried? You could make a difference, even in a very small way, which is, I guess, what I like to tell people that are not vegans. Is like, don't force yourself to just completely eliminate meat, just take it step by step. Like, say maybe in 1 week you have one meal that's vegan, or like one day you have one meal that's vegan, say breakfast, for example. Like you have oatmeal, or I don't know, porridge or something like that, that doesn't need to have meat in it. And that would already make such a big difference if you're eliminating meat as a consumer, and that sort of brings down the demand for meat already, and you're already making a difference. So yeah, definitely. And I think the thing with veganism also is, I think this is also something in the vegan community that I don't really like, is that you're either a vegan or you're not. And I don't really like that black and white differentiation, because it feels like you have to take such a huge step to cross the line and call yourself a vegan. Whereas you can find so many people in that gray area of just trying things out, being flexitarian or like flexi vegan. You don't have to just be like, oh, I'm vegan and this is me now, I'm perfect and I don't eat any meat. And I just think that's very unhealthy, because vegans aren't perfect. What if I decided to transition vegan one day, but I still own leather, or I still use like facial products that was derived from animal testing? You can't eliminate all these things. And yes, we live on this planet, and we're probably gonna have to make an impact anyways on the planet by existing, like for example taking planes to study abroad or travel abroad. Like you can't eliminate these things, but we have to live in some way. But if we can live in a sustainable way that minimizes our impact as much as possible, then I'm willing to try that. At least that's that's how I think for myself.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's like quite a good way to think about things in general, because also it like helps to not absolve, but like to reduce like the
Pressure.
crushing guilt that you feel that people feel like for like existing in general, for like using things and having plastic things, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's like just try your best. It's interesting. So I guess from a vegan perspective, something else I was thinking about was also about like eating, about like lab grown meat. Would you consider lab grown meat to be the same as, would that absolve you of the guilt of eating meat if you only ate lab grown meat?
What do you mean? Like, I won't feel guilty for eating lab grown meat?
Yeah, or like does that make you a non-vegan?
Well, I don't think so. It's not derived from animal products, right? Like, you're not causing harm on an animal. I guess that's the motto of veganism. So,
But it's from like animal cells, I guess. I think. Yeah, it
oh,
is.
I'm not particularly like certain of how lab grown meat is made, but and I haven't eaten any yet, but if it's derived from animal cells, I think you can get cells from animals without harming them, right? Like you just take cells
Yeah.
from, yeah, so I think it's okay. I'm a little skeptical at the moment. Like it's not that widespread yet, so I'm not sure. I probably have to read more about it, but if I think it doesn't do any harm to an animal and it's relatively safe to eat, then I wouldn't be against eating it, you know? And I think it's the
Yeah.
same for like meat substitutes now on the market. Like they're so good now, as in they're really close to mimicking meat, is what I mean. And I think they're really good, you know. And sometimes non-vegans ask a question, like they always ask, I always see these in comments underneath like vegan videos with recipes. Like they're like, why do you call it steak if it's not steak? Or they're like, why do you call it this when it's clearly not that? You know what I mean? Do you think that as well?
Yeah. No, because like that's the description. It's like is it like for the recipes which are like, oh, vegan steak, and then it's like a mushroom like burger, or like vegan burger, and then it's like a portobello mushroom,
Yeah.
which I guess is not a real. I mean, I do think that's not like a real, but I guess that's different. But I think it's helpful in labeling the content, so I think that's
Yeah.
fine. Like actually, there was this whole controversy about that there was this mayo. Oh my gosh, this is one research. But anyway, there was this mayo which was made like without eggs, so it wasn't real eggs, and they labeled it as mayo, and then and then people complained, and I think it got sued because like it wasn't actually mayo if it had no eggs, and then but then the U.S. like the Food and Drug Administration authorities like allowed them to label it as mayo anyway, like with like the disclaimer that it wasn't. So I guess because of that, because it's like a legal precedent, so I think it's fine.
I think before I was vegan, I will say, why would you call it that when it's not that? But I think once you're in the vegan community, you can understand why it's called that. Like what you said, it's easier to label it. And also, I think it's, I guess, to everyone to know that vegans become vegan not because they don't like meat. They kind of change it for like other reasons, like animal cruelty, the environment, blah, blah, blah. So it's not that they don't like meat, and they sort of want to find ways to recreate that feeling, and using those words as a label I think appeals to vegans as well, and they sort of know what the recipe is about, you know. It's not unfamiliar territory, you know.
Yeah.
And also with the names thing, there's actually this, I think it was in Europe, it was like amendment 74 or something regarding milk. Like you can't use the word milk on plant milks. And like the vegan community was like so mad at it. They're like, what do you mean? You know? It's like saying oat milk is not milk because it didn't come from a cow. But but it's like it's telling you what it is, you know, and it doesn't really the reason for for dairy companies saying that they don't want it to be using the word milk is that they don't want consumers to be confused. And it's like, do you get confused when you buy oat milk mistaking it for cow's milk? Like I don't think consumers really get confused to that stage, you know. But I think it's just quite interesting to see how these like small things get played on a legal scale, like at a marketing scale as well. And I guess people also argue like, then what about like coconut cream? Coconut cream is not cream, peanut butter is not butter, and you know,
Yeah.
oat milk is not milk. So It's, I guess, the argument goes both ways. So
Yeah, I guess it's like a long-standing thing
Mm.
that vegans have to go through. But also, I think it's like it goes back to like the reasons why people don't like vegans. Also, because it's like like everything has to be so right. As in, like if you mess up even once, if you had like, because I guess you said like that you all miss meat and stuff. But then if you mess up even once and you have like a cheat meal and stuff, then you're not vegan. And I think a lot of people feel like that's just like a very big pressure to have when you transition.
Yeah, that's why I think for people who are thinking about it, I think you don't really have to label yourself as anything. You can just tell people like, oh, I'm trying to transition and becoming more plant-based. Maybe this is the easiest way, like if you're thinking
Like
about it.
plant-based.
Yeah, if you're thinking about it and you want to hang out with friends and you want to pick a vegan option and you're scared of getting judged, just say like, I'm thinking of becoming more plant-based with my meals because of health and documentaries I've watched. I think that would be a good way of going about it instead of just saying, hey, I'm vegan now, and I think there's just so much connotation to the word vegan that you become something different. You transform into like a monster that shoves your opinions down people's throats. So yeah, it's a big step that people can think it's a big step, but just taking it easy and I think it's fine. Even for me, like I would say I'm not 100% perfect. Like there are definitely some times where I accidentally slip up because I missed an ingredient probably in the label, or there's something in my family, like for soups, for example, that there were some like dried shrimp in it, and like sometimes you just can't help it. You can't be 100% perfect, but I think it's just important that everyone's trying their best according to themselves, and I think that's already enough to try and like make change in the world.
Yeah, that's true. There's another interesting argument that I read for like not becoming vegan, which was that meat and hunting in general is like so tied up with being a man and like masculinity that it's like becoming vegan is seen as a
soy boy.
What is that a thing?
Yeah, it's a thing. They're like, oh, you are such a skinny soy boy. That's the term used for people who are vegans. I guess if you're skinny and a guy, then you're a soy boy. let me pull up the definition.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. But yeah, I think it's just so interesting that like part of the reason why for example, if you go to the US, like the Midwest and stuff, then like steak and eating meat is so much tied up in their like cowboy Wild West culture kind of thing. Like it's part of the person that they want to be, that like we don't even need that much of it, but yet we still choose it. Whereas like maybe for females it's almost easier to become vegan because it's considered like, oh, I'm like a like vegan, which means that I like care about my health, I go for Pilates.
Yeah, I think veganism kind of sells it as a white mom yoga type of thing, it even in the vegan community, I think it was harder for like Black people to try and say they're vegan because it seems like they're trying to be white or something. I think this is also like there's just so many issues tied with even within the vegan community that's not really talked about outside of the community. But yeah, going along the argument of the hunter masculinity tangent. So basically the definition of a soy boy is a prerogative term often used in online communities to describe men lacking masculine characteristics. Yep, and it's a term used as an insult for male femininity. And yeah, I think it's definitely used in the vegan community too, because like, hello, soy,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the thing with that argument, I also watched some videos and articles about this argument, and I think the thing is that it kind of stems from when I guess humans were still like hunting and they were in like more like when people were living in caves and like hunting for their own.
When they were still like hunter gatherers.
Yeah, hunter gatherers basically. And obviously because like men were more physically stronger than women, so they were given the task of like hunting for animals, blah blah blah. But I think the thing that kind of didn't follow along is that the characteristic of the man is that they're providing for the family, like they're providing for their community. But for some reason, as the years progressed, it sort of translated into providing and helping my family meant that I need to like show physical labor and like actually do stuff. But the thing is, now we sort of moved past the stage of actively hunting for our own food. So
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense to me why that, you know, like men needs to eat meat, because it doesn't really mean anything. It's the act of doing the work to provide for your family. But now it's different. So, but for whatever reason, it sort of continued in like a weird, distorted way for men to think that
Yeah.
they need to
Like
eat
it's tied
meat.
up together.
Yeah. And maybe this is not from my position to say, but it can, I guess this can also be like a trait of toxic masculinity. I don't know. Um but yeah, I think it's just weird how it translated into this way nowadays, and men have to feel like they need to eat meat to be masculine, or you know, or otherwise they might feel insecure about like how manly they are, you know. So I guess
Yeah.
sometimes it's nice to see that um male vegans are actively like talking about this issue as well, and also like even like some vegans who are black and male to talk about this issue. I think it's really nice to just see them talking about it and saying, you know, going against that argument basically.
Yeah. I think there's so many like vegan bodybuilders as well on YouTube.
Yeah.
So it's like a totally done thing.
Yeah, a really good documentary for this is Game Changers on Netflix. I think I told you about it, but it's just a very good documentary, and we'll put it in reference below. But it basically talks about a lot of vegan bodybuilders and just vegan athletes that train really hard, and they are able to come to this stage by just using a vegan diet. And I think it's just very inspiring to see that, you know, plant-based diets are becoming more widespread now, and it's just nice to see things like this being more of it being on media, and it's becoming more common for people to follow a vegan diet but still reach their fitness goals, you know. And a really good quote I really like in that documentary is that this vegan lifter, somebody asked him, they're like, how are you so strong like an ox? And then the lifter was like, well, have you seen an ox eating meat? And I really like that quote.
I guess it's true. Yeah, I think that's really interesting. Like, I feel like personally, coming from like a non-vegan perspective, what really changed my mind, what encourages me to have a much more open mind about vegans in general was like being friends with you and like having to like cook around stuff that you ate, which is good. And also like more recently having like a pescatarian room flatmate who like so like she still eats fish and seafood, but then like also being around people in general who believe in not consuming meat and also like actively carry it out and seeing it being done in real life. So I think like it's
Yeah.
really cool that like now it's like much more widespread and then like people are just like it's becoming mainstream. Okay, I guess it's also bad in the sense that it's sometimes perceived as like a very classy like trendy thing to
Trendy thing.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially among like a certain demographic
Yeah.
of
I
like
think
rich uni students.
yeah, I totally get it. First of all, thank you so much. The thing I learned also is that not shoving it down people's throats, which I haven't done, hopefully. And I think the most important thing for me is like being next to my friends and just showing them that being vegan doesn't mean you miss out on good food. You can still eat really good food. And I think being next to them is the best way of sort of getting across your message and influencing them in a positive way. And I think that's really good already. So obviously recently, because I started a YouTube channel, I also want to share some of like my thoughts and recipes about veganism, because I also think it's so important and like, you know, spread positivity and like even like good things in the vegan community, obviously. So I'm also really enjoying that. And also with what you say about the trendy thing, it's definitely true. I think at one point, like this was the only time I got offended, I think, was when someone said that I was trying to follow trends and like I was vegan and that I was doing it for the trend. And I think I was just a little bit, I didn't know what to say back to them, because like I definitely like I can see how it's a trend because like it's everywhere and I can totally see that. But like I'm so strong in my why power of why I'm vegan, like I wouldn't do it for the trend, you know. And I think regarding the trend, there's two views you can look at it for vegans. Obviously, like one of them is saying like, oh, it's so mainstream, like it kind of loses all of its the real reason of why people are vegan, and it doesn't really align with the movement. Because the thing, I think I have to mention the fact that the difference between plant-based and veganism is that plant-based is just incorporating more plant-based foods in your diet, but whereas veganism is kind of about the motto of trying to harm no animals at all about your lifestyle. So that's like two distinct terms. And I think with the trend is definitely more plant-based, Whereas for me or like the vegan community is more about like the why power, why you're doing it, which is why you're able to stick to it. Whereas on a trend, it's very easy to fall off the trend. But the other way of seeing this trend getting more mainstream is I'm still grateful for it, because I think plant-based foods are getting more exposure in the media, and I think it's great because at least that way, like, veganism gets more exposure and more people is able to learn about it through the trend, you know? Like, even though I can say, like, even in Hong Kong, like McDonald's, now they have like a plant-based patty in a macaroni bowl, but they market it as plant-based, but at the same time, the soup is chicken soup and there's an egg in it. So it's not plant-based, you know? But at the same time, I think it's just nice that things are getting more, like, veganism, the movement is getting more momentum, and I'm very happy about that. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's cool in general that, well, like, also one of the reasons why like people are vegan now is just because it's so much easier, because like technology is kind of keeping up with it, and then there's like so many plant-based things out there, like made from mushrooms and things. But I think there's also like a big, I wouldn't say flaw, but it's also like a bit where I'll be a bit wary of it, because I think I read somewhere it kind of, like, the idea that like technology would help us to solve this problem is probably true, but it's also quite scary, because then it's like people don't become vegan. I wouldn't say
For the
like
right reasons.
for the right reasons, but yeah, but also because like, oh, because since there's so many other options, I can just, my life can continue. I can continue eating meat, but I'll just eat a substitute. So it's like you don't stop to think about your impact, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I can definitely see that. But at the same time, I think the trend also encourages people who are like vegan curious to sort of read up more about the topic and, you know, make the transition if it's something they're happy to do. So I think I'm already grateful that there's probably more opportunities for people to become vegan. And I think the fact that there's more substitutes, and if that means that the consumption of meat and dairy is decreasing, it's already a good point. Like, it's a win, in my opinion. So, you know, it's okay.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's good. I think it's just like, yeah, all around positive vibes.
Yeah. So I guess I can also ask you a question. Like, I know and I'm already really happy that you're thinking about, like, I guess incorporating more plant-based diets. So what's the one thing that's holding you back, I would ask?
Oh, sometimes I feel like the biggest thing is that I don't care enough. Yeah, probably. Like, it's like, all this is fine, it's nice, but I just can't bring myself to care enough, which is really bad. As in, like, I don't know why I can't care enough.
No. I think it's a valid point. As in, I think people have different things they care about more, but it doesn't make like any other issue that you're not as invested in less of an issue. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, I know some people in Bartlett might be, you know, they care more about, I guess, the architecture and the built environment more. Or some people might care about, like, girls receiving educations or, like, poverty, you know, more. Like, it doesn't make their issue less of an issue. It's just that this is something that I'm interested or I care about a lot. So I can see that, but I'm already really grateful that, you know, I'm like letting you see more of what veganism can be and how it's a positive thing and not like as stereotypical or negative as the internet make it out to be. So I think in that case, I'm already really happy, and I think it's a win for me that, you know, you're learning more about it, and I'm happy about that.
Yeah, and I think you're definitely right about like the Asian culture. Like, for example, me coming back to Malaysia means that, because in London I avoided buying meat, so I bought like a lot more fish stuff, and so I became ish pescatarian. Okay, not, I wasn't pescatarian ish, but then definitely, like, once I come back to Malaysia, like eating with my family, eating out, it's just it's like I don't care enough to like
make an effort,
tell everyone that I want to not eat what they cook for me. Or like when I go to a restaurant, I don't care enough to like make it my thing to avoid the food.
Yeah, because it's like if you do that, then you have to make more of an effort, and you're kind of like troubling your family to like make more of an effort to accommodate to your needs. So I can see that.
Yeah. But the conclusion is also that I just don't care enough.
Yeah.
To do that.
And I think the other thing also for me to say, like, from a vegan's point of view, is that I I acknowledge that it's for some people it can be a lot more difficult, especially in different regions of the world. Like for example, Hong Kong is so much harder to be a vegan compared to London, and also depending on like financial budgets, or like, you know, if you live with your family, if you live alone, like there's so many factors that take into the account of whether you're able to become vegan or not. And I also need to say this, that I'm definitely in a privileged position to be able to be a vegan because I'm able to access so much content online to find recipes and have the financial support to purchase stuff that I like. But that's not to say that vegan food is expensive, because I think it can be very cheap, you know. Because when for meals I cook by myself, it's honestly relatively so cheap when I cook them in London or even at home here. It's very cheap and inexpensive. So yeah, so I think for me it's just about acknowledging a person's situation, and you know, be more open-minded and like kind about their situation and not force them to do anything.
Yeah, I guess it's like trying your best
Yeah,
in general. So when you're eating with your family, if you don't want to, but as like things that you can control, then like making the right choices then to like reduce your like footprint and that stuff.
yeah. So I guess to conclude, first of all, I really enjoyed this discussion. I think it's really nice just to get our points across. You know, it's like a really civil conversation. It's not like an argument. So I really appreciate that, for both of us to see each other's point of view. And I guess a really good point to conclude for this is, I think really important for vegans and non-vegans is to keep an open mind, because like us, like we're still able to be friends even though our dietary preferences is different. But I think it's really nice for me to respect your point of view and for you to respect my point of view. I think obviously for vegans, they want people to convert to vegans more, and obviously that's like a dream I have, but it takes time. You know, you can't reach that stage so quickly. So I think it's important to just keep an open mind, especially for non-vegans, to understand why your friend or like your family or whoever that you're close with become vegan, like understand their point of view to make them feel heard and seen. And from a vegan's perspective, I think it's really important for a vegan to understand where they came from, especially if they wasn't a vegan for the entirety of their life. Because I think it's really easy for vegans to, once they convert, they sort of forget how they were before that. You know, and I think it's really important to remember how you were and how you thought about veganism before you became vegan. So it's easier for you to relate to non-vegans and understand their point of view instead of just shoving your vegan thoughts down their throat. You know, I think that's really important. And I think it's a good way for me to see how people are within my circle. So yeah, I think that's the point I wanted to make.
Yeah, I think that's nice. I think also like it's also quite cool that it hasn't become your, it's also important to note that it hasn't become your entire personality. That like
Yeah.
you can totally make it part of your lifestyle and do other things as well. Just nice.
Yeah, I think it can be like a part of your personality, but I wouldn't make it as like the entirety of me and become that stereotypical vegan that forces it down people's throats. So yeah, I appreciate you asking me these questions and for us to have a genuine discussion. What do you think?
Yeah, so I think discussions are good to kind of like recap what I've been reading and then to reconcile it with what you think and also with like the stuff that you know. But I think for me, what's most persuasive is when, or maybe I'm just a sheep, but it's like when my friends are vegan or pescatarian or like choose plant-based options. So like there's you and then there's my flatmate, and then also previously when I was in London, my close friend was also plant-based for a while, and it was just like you all just did it so naturally without me even noticing it sometimes, and that was like so cool to see. And yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good point for any vegans out there who feel like they're trying really hard but they don't feel like they're making a difference. I can tell you're definitely making a difference for the impact you have on the people around you, and that's already a really good starting point. So yeah, I think that's a good point to end on. So yeah, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.